and you understand that you have the conscious creative power to rewire into beliefs that do serve you, beliefs that can completely transform you and your reality, and that the reality that you've been living as a person who you think you are does not have to be the reality from now on. Rejection, the abandonment, the criticism, yeah, it hurts, but it's no longer tied to your story. Once you work on those beliefs, once you work on that self-concept and it's rooted in self-love and self-worth and confidence and capability, when things like the abandonment and the rejection and the criticism happen, it hurts, like I said, but that shit is gonna bounce off you because now you're a motherfucking force field, okay? And you understand that you actually, again, you have the conscious choice of deciding whether or not you want to identify with these things that happen to you. Do you want to identify with this label that someone is placing on you? Do you want to identify with this particular outcome? Hi guys, it's Sinem. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for joining me today. This is That's the Tea on Life, where I spill the tea on how you can grow up physically, mentally, and spiritually, of course, and become your most confident, authentic, and empowered self so you can live a life that is iconic and amazing. That is what I'm here for, okay? So lately on this channel, I've been talking a lot about, stepping into your power, becoming that woman, shifting your fear, really stepping into your dream life and transforming your life, right? All that stuff takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of confidence, and unless we can go deep within ourselves, unless we can really start to look at ourselves and look at the things that are holding us back in life, then, these things are not going to be sustainable at all. For things to be sustainable, we have to go within, we have to build that inner foundation, and our inner foundation as people is built off a limiting, it's built off a belief system, but it's limiting beliefs in that belief system, in that core narrative that prevent us from really stepping into our power, So as promised, today we're going to be talking about stepping through fear and shifting those limiting beliefs, because I do believe that, they control everything. And if we can control how we see ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, then we can really start to step into that power and step into our fullest potential. I would have to say that this topic that I'm touching on today is probably my favorite topic to talk about. Why, you ask? Well, I'm so glad you did ask, because I have about 4.5 years of experience underneath my belt. No, I don't have a degree or any certificates or anything like that. I've just been through, an insanely transformative healing journey. It really made me look at myself, and I realized that there were so many things I've been carrying for so long that I just hadn't acknowledged. And, it was just really time to face my past, face the things that were preventing me from becoming the woman that I always knew I was meant to be. And here I am, motherfucker. But in order to do that, I knew there was some serious shifting that had to be done, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm fully healed. I don't think anyone is ever fully healed. But I'm definitely at a point now where I'm looking back and I'm like, wow, I motherfucking did that. And I'm insanely proud of where I came from and where I'm at now and the woman I'm becoming. And it is an amazing, empowering feeling to have that success on a emotional level, inner success. Go me. But yeah, I really want to talk about this video because I want you guys to get to this point as well. We're going to talk about how I did it so you can do it too. And I want you guys to understand the power that you hold once you step through that fear, once you realize that fear ain't shit unless you let it be shit. So this video will be split into 3 parts. The first part, we're going to focus on awareness. We're going to talk about what is a limiting belief, where does it come from, how can we, look for it, what behaviors we have to look for. And then part 2, we're going to be focusing on how to actually shift. So starting from, identifying that belief that's holding you back, all the way to living your life and aligning yourself with actions that align with those newer, healthier habits and beliefs, so that you can actually step into that version of you who is confident, who loves herself, who feels like she is capable of everything and anything. And then part 3 is embodiment and expansion. What is life like on the other side? The grass is greener on the other side. Okay, it's true. Okay guys, but how fucking cute is this Spider-Man hoodie? It was my brother's. He was gonna give it away. I'm like, fuck no. I'm gonna take that because I love Spider-Man. I feel like if I was any superhero, I'd be Spider-Man. I even have a AI generated image of me as Spider-Woman. You can't really see because of the reflection, But period. Is that not me? That is actually me. Look. Period. Anywho, let's get into it. First thing is first. What is a limiting belief? A limiting belief is basically a lie that you've constructed around yourself and around your life that you believe to be true. And you know, this is obviously unintentional. We didn't mean to create this lie. It just happened. But you know, it was a lie that was created a very long time ago, most likely. And the reason why it feels so real is because the pattern that's come from that belief is something that we've repeated over and over and over again through the way that we think, through the way that we feel, you know. And of course, when we act, we, you know, act in a way that actually ends up repeating the same situation that affirms that same belief. So it's a cycle. And every time that happens, you know, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper into our brain. That shit is like rock solid at this point. Not only is this one of the most damaging types of lies, but it is one of the most damaging things that we can do to ourselves, because this lie is completely destructive, okay? It blocks us from moving forward. It stagnates our growth, ruins our potential, straight up. Let's say, for example, you have a fear of releasing control, and that comes from the belief of, if I release control, I'm not safe. If I am not in control of everything all the time, then my life will fall apart. When you live off this belief, you become a control freak. Your stress levels are high, anxiety is high. You don't allow yourself to kind of just like go with the flow, and you're definitely not as open to, you know, random opportunities or just like, I don't know, chance things happening. You know, you don't really take risks. If something is a little bit like off the schedule, you're like, probably not. I don't want to do that because it's not the way that I want things to be. When that happens, that's us blocking ourselves, because oftentimes when things go south, that is just life redirecting us towards the path that we need to take. Maybe you have a fear of expressing your emotion, or, you know, expressing vulnerability because, you know, you have a belief of thinking that you're too much, or you don't trust people. You know, people can't be trusted. Not only does this block you from, you know, connecting with new people, disconnection between you and the people in your life that you have already, you know, because it blocks you from getting closer with them. It blocks you from real connection and intimacy and really letting people see you. You suppress your authentic self, you suppress your emotions. You can end up, you know, isolating yourself. Where do they come from? They come from childhood, usually. And, you know, they obviously can come from adulthood as well. I definitely believe that experiencing something highly traumatic as an adult can create a limiting belief, for sure. But we tend to lean towards childhood more, because from 0 to 7 especially, these are very formative years. For this period of time, right, your subconscious mind is like a fresh slate. It's ripe for the picking because there's nothing in there. So everything that you experience, everything that your brain absorbs is the truth, automatically the truth. Versus now, when we experience things, we question them, we're skeptical, like to, you know, ponder. But at that point, there's no pondering. We immediately make it a part of our identity, a part of our core narrative. And our core narrative is the story that we tell ourselves about who we are. And that core narrative is made up of all these beliefs. Everything that we've, you know, consumed, that we've absorbed over our life is in this place. Think of it as like a massive library in your center, and every single book is a belief, an experience, you know, thought, whatever. Now, adolescence and teen years, very impactful as well. My childhood was fucked. I'm gonna be real. So a lot of my trauma, most of my like issues in life, right, come from that era. But, you know, my experience throughout the education system, especially in high school, was equally as traumatic, but in a different way. Because when you think about it, this is, you know, our first time experiencing a lot of new things, especially when it comes to like, you know, gender norms and social conformity, really learning a lot about relationships, platonic and romantic. We're developing a lot of beliefs around trust, around intimacy, around connection, around love. If you get your heart broken by your first boyfriend at 16 and, you know, he cheats on you, you can form a belief around, oh, all men is shit, all men can't be trusted, especially if you had issues with your dad when you were a kid. Hello. And let's not forget, the school system is fucked, okay? Yes, the kiddlywinks need the education. I'm a stand on that, but The education system in itself and how they teach these kids is fucked up. The education system is built off a system of praise versus shame. And basically the grades that you get in school, how well you do in school, it's almost kind of like pushed onto you as part of your identity. If you get good grades, you're a good person, you're smart, you're capable, you're gonna do big things, you know? You're gonna get far in life. If you get bad grades, you're a dropkick. We're not capable. We're not gonna get far in life. We should just, we're a dropkick, we should just drop out. As a woman with neurodivergence, ADHD and dyslexia, I've struggled pretty much my entire life with these issues. It wasn't until last year, as a 25-year-old, that I finally got my diagnosis. So pretty much for the past almost like 20 years or something ridiculous like that, I have struggled. Not once did I have any teacher or parent or like guardian, responsible adult pull me over and be like, hey, have you ever thought or like questioned the idea that you might have this problem? No, I was immediately put into the catch-up classes. And all the kids would tease you because, the catch-up class was the dumb kids class. Immediately, this cultivated this belief of, okay, I'm stupid. I can't do anything. And it took me years of unlearning and pushing myself to do the things that I felt like I wasn't worthy or capable of doing to get to the point where I'm at now. I'm like, I'm actually smart, I am capable, I am intelligent, but just in a different way. My brain is wired differently. So end of the day, people, experiences, and trauma can severely affect our beliefs. Sometimes it happens through what we witness through the media or our environment, and then sometimes it's projected onto us by either a teacher or a parent or another adult. Limiting beliefs are extremely hard to notice unless we're self-aware, unless we're watching ourselves, unless we're paying attention to the things that we do and the things that we say and how we feel about certain things. It really comes down to questioning everything about us. So you want to look at your behaviors. This is the most important thing. Examples of behaviors that show up in your life that indicate that you are being controlled by limiting belief involve perfectionism, self-doubt, overthinking, not showing up, procrastination, avoidance, getting defensive, suppressing your emotions. And what you have to understand is everything has a purpose, including your limiting beliefs. Your limiting beliefs are there to protect you. Because at some point, your brain learned that, this is what you have to do in order to avoid experiencing that same emotional or physical pain that you did experience at some point. At some point, yes, this belief, this behavior did protect us, it did serve its purpose, but now it doesn't. Now we're stepping into this higher version of us, into this higher timeline, and our feelings are valid, our feelings were valid, but there's just no need for it anymore. And if we continue to repeat this loop, we're never gonna move forward. So for most of my life, I was a control freak. From how my day unfolded to how people perceived me, I had to control it all because controlling it made me feel safe. Controlling it made me feel like I had it all together and that, life was gonna be okay. Constantly overgiving, constantly over-explaining, constantly overworking, all right? This was the result of this belief. I need to control so I can feel safe. Do you see how this can block us? Do you see how detrimental this can be? Not just to our mental, but to our physical as well. This truly sucked the joy out of me. And it really did tie into a lot of my perfectionist tendencies as well, because perfectionism was a way for me to kind of mask. It was a way for me to control how people saw me. And if people saw me in the way that I wanted them to see me, then I was all good. And that ties into another belief completely, but let's just stay on topic. I understood how this belief was affecting me in such a bad way. I understood how it was limiting me, and I understood that it came from my childhood. So I was like, all right, let's backtrack a little bit. What happened? So let me tell you the tea. Home environment was very unstable. It was very chaotic. It was not secure. It was not a warm home. When I think about my home as a kid, I just get like a cold vibe. I experienced a lot of things, a lot of bad things that were out of my control. There was nothing I could do about it. And so little me understood by experiencing all that, okay, if I want to feel safe, if I want to feel secure, then I need to control. I need to control it all, because if I don't, then this is what happens. And yes, that controlling behavior does link to other beliefs, but I would say this is like the core root of it. So it really came down to switching that belief of, oh, I need to control to feel safe, to, oh, I'm actually safe regardless. Everything is always working out for me as it should. And it took a lot of doing things like that in that way to finally feel okay with it, like exposure therapy, you know what I'm saying? The thing is, you guys, if you are serious about this, if you really want to shift, you need to get serious about yourself. You need to be obsessed with yourself. The only reason why I've gotten to this point is because I looked at myself, I approached me as basically like a very long and very expensive course in university or college, okay? Like I was dedicated to learning about me, and I was dedicated to the idea of, okay, I'm gonna get myself a degree on me by the end of this. Because end of the day, you are your biggest investment. And if you don't know shit about yourself, I don't know what to tell you, you're gonna flop. All right, knowledge is power. The most empowering thing for any single person, knowledge of themselves, understanding of their inner workings. Because in those moments where self-doubt felt stronger than confidence, I was able to backtrack to the facts. I understood the inner workings of my brain. I understood, okay, this happened to me and this is the result. And because of this result, I'm behaving in this way. Cause and effect kind of thing. Wasn't like caught up in this illusion, caught up in this lie of, oh my God, I'm worthless, I'm incapable. Even though I felt that way sometimes still because of how deeply embedded this belief was, because I had been embodying this pattern, this feeling for years, I now had this new layer of awareness. I understood more about myself. I understood more about the brain, about the body, about trauma. Knowledge is motherfucking power, guys, I'm telling you. Okay, so let's get into the juicy bits. Let's get into actually shifting your beliefs. Let's start off with number one. And this is, stating the obvious here, but number one, we want to know what the belief is. We want to understand the belief that is holding us back, because we each have like a million beliefs going on up in here, but we really want to look at the ones that are preventing us. And this is the thing, it's going to be very, very easy for you to identify this belief, because to some extent it is going to be showing up in your everyday life through your behavior, through the way that you think, through the way that you feel, your emotional responses to situations. The key here, okay, is just becoming aware of it, all right? Self-observation, as I said before. And I think another thing that really helps is questioning whether or not the belief is yours, in the sense of, okay, was it projected onto me by someone else, by a teacher, a parent, or was it something that I experienced through my environment, through the media, through school, something like that? This is gonna help you get to the root of the problem. Once you understand the what is the belief, and the why is it there, you now wanna understand the how. How has it been protecting me, okay? We need to know this information so that we can release it. We need to understand how it served us, and we need to understand how it no longer serves us. Remember what I said about the belief being there to protect you? It's your inner child, and we have to reparent them. We have to tell them that we're safe, we're good. These behaviors are trauma responses, okay? When we experience a situation that reminds us of the same fear, the same pain that we experienced when we were younger, even though it's like completely unrelated, somehow we perceive that there's a link, we perceive a threat. Key word here being perceived. Our brain cannot tell the difference between an actual threat and a perceived threat. We see something, it triggers us, fight or flight response, our nervous system goes haywire, and so we either assert ourselves, we either avoid, we're stuck, we're like paralyzed, we're like, what the fuck do I do? Or we people please, all right? Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Those are the 4 trauma responses. Understanding that is gonna help you out a lot as well. For someone who has a fear of being seen, the thought of posting something very personal online can trigger the same emotional response as being chased by a bear or like a predator in the wild. So it's up to us to tell our brain, to tell our inner child that there's no bear, okay? We're not gonna die. It's gonna be okay. Yes, that situation that happened to us when we were younger, that was painful, that was traumatic, it was bad, but that's in the past. So it's like, why are we trying to relive the past when we're trying so hard to get away from it? If we want to experience a new life, new things, we need to do things differently, right? So for pretty much as long as I can remember, I've really struggled with expressing my needs, my desires, placing boundaries, asserting myself, speaking up for myself. Anything that I felt like was, you know, kind of being too much, right? I had this belief that I was too much. And these behaviors showed up with men. And, you know, it is a pattern that really held me back for such a long time, and it really did keep me stuck in my low self-worth. And I had to track back, and I had to like look for the moment that this happened. Like, what was it that happened to me as a kid to make me feel like I was too much? And shock horror, it always comes down to my amazing dad. Thank you, Dad, so much. I remember like a core moment when I was literally like, I was 4 years old. I'm pretty sure I was 4 years old, right? I was very young. And I'm in the kitchen with Mum and Dad, and I'm crying. I'm like bawling my eyes out. I'm pretty sure I'd asked my dad something. He's like yelling at me. He's like so angry. I remember I was like peeling carrots for some reason. Must have been like helping cooking dinner, I guess. But I'm looking down at this carrot and I'm like, I'll never ask for anything ever again. And I'm like sobbing, you know. I guess, you know, my dad made me feel so rejected, so like ashamed for asking for something. I did truly feel alone. I truly felt abandoned and rejected. My experience with my dad throughout the rest of my years with him, which was up until I was 13, you know, those same experiences of him just being like angry at me for like ever opening my mouth or asking him anything continue to deepen and affirm that belief. I'm too much. When I ask for things, I'm too much. When I ask for things, bad things happen, or when I assert myself, bad things happen. So I need to keep myself small. I need to like please people. I need to not make a big fuss, not make a big deal of things, because this is what happens. There was another experience in high school with my first boyfriend ever. I was 16 and we were like breaking up, but it was also like a kind of maybe getting back together situation. Like I was very like strong on like what I needed from him, and I was like, you know, communicating that, but I think I did push too hard, and that was kind of like his breaking point, and he was like, all right bitch, I'm out, kind of thing, because like you're crazy. And honestly, maybe I was a bit crazy back then, but whatever, my needs are still valid, bitch. Okay, shut up. I really blamed myself. I spiraled. I like lost my shit, and I lost my shit because it dug into that trigger point, that pain point, that wound of I'm too much. When I open my mouth, when I ask men for things, when I communicate my needs, bad things happen. They leave me because I'm too much, I'm doing too much, I'm saying too much, I'm a bad person, I'm a bad girl. And I feel like that experience with my high school boyfriend solidified that belief around men and around my needs. It really show up in every single experience with my romantic and sexual relationships with men from that point. It always ended in what I perceived to be a disaster, always ended in the same situation of me feeling rejected and abandoned, and me spiraling back into that same belief, you know, telling myself the same story, feeding that same loop. And when I got involved with the guy, to be honest with you, it wasn't even enjoyable for me, because I was almost like expecting something bad to happen. And it really did feed into all my other toxic beliefs. For example, needing to control to feel safe. I felt like I had to like micromanage the situation with me and these men, even if that like, you know, meant just controlling how they perceived me or coming across as the girl that they wanted, so that I didn't experience that pain. You know, I didn't experience that same result from my past, right? And, you know, again, having this belief around men can't be trusted, people can't be trusted, and the behaviors that come from that, they all really like linked up, to be honest. It was like a little party with all my beliefs, my limiting beliefs. I hope they had a great time, because I didn't. And I guess the reason why it hurt so badly, the reason why I needed these men to choose me, was because my dad didn't choose me. I didn't receive that healthy, safe, protective, masculine love as a child, and so I was desperately looking for it in my adulthood. Point on, I was like, where are you at? Because I don't know what that feels like. So that is why now, 10 years later, as a woman who loves herself, who respects herself, who has herself on that pedestal, the idea of a man rejecting me or getting mad at me, or I don't know, ditching me, honestly does not faze me at all, to be honest with you, because I no longer need these men to fill my cup. And that was the problem back in the day. I did not have a cup to fill. Now I have a cup and that bitch is motherfucking flowing. She's overflowing. And you know, it took me a very long time. It took heartbreak after heartbreak to finally reach a point where I became strong enough in myself to realize that I don't need this pattern, this behavior to shield me anymore, to protect me, because I don't need protection from these men. I don't need protection from anyone because I now understand that I am my own safe place. I can fill my own cup. And any man that gets angry at me for asserting my needs, for speaking up for myself, is a piece of shit. Always show yourself grace, show yourself understanding, because you're doing the best you can. So the amazing thing is, once you've actually released this belief, you now have all this room for a new belief to come in, a belief that is aligned with your higher self, a belief that is aligned with the version of you who is happy, who is confident, who is abundant, okay? Because this is who we're trying to be. And we need to make sure that we're aligning ourselves with behaviors, we're adopting behaviors, we're building them, okay, consistently with these healthier habits to actually bring that version of us into form. So ask yourself this question, get clear on who that version of you is, what does she look like, and get clear on the beliefs that you need to adopt in order for you to become that woman. Go watch my video on quantum jumping. Quantum jumping is all about there is all these versions of us existing at the same time, and the version of you that you want to be the most does exist out there, but the way that we become that version, the way that we call them in and we, you know, we look at them and we're like, hey, you're real, is by actually like thinking in a certain way, feeling in a certain way, acting in a certain way that, like, you know, that version of you is, right? Go watch it, go watch it. Now you want to interrupt the pattern, okay? Flipping the belief, flipping the action. In my opinion, the most progressive work comes from actually taking action. Taking action as our aligned self. Taking action that aligns with those new beliefs. Just because you want to believe in something new doesn't mean the old belief is just going to go away. Okay, it's still in our brain. Our beliefs run off neural pathways in our brain. Think of them as like little wires or circuits in your brain. There's like a whole city of them, all right? So even though you want to believe in something different, you've still got this wire in your brain, you know, this programming in your brain that is actually telling you a different story. So your impulse is going to follow these circuits in your brain, even though you might be aware of what you're doing. And this is why so many people start new habits, like they want to go to the gym, they want to lose weight, they want to like not go on their phone as much, but these neural pathways are built off this habit. I built off the habit of not going to the gym, eating bad food, checking the phone. So unless you show up so fucking consistently every single day with these habits for forming your new belief, then they're not going to grow. That is how you build a new neural pathway. This is how you reverse the effect. This means doing things that scare the shit out of you. For me, this meant being assertive and speaking up for myself, even though I felt like I was sure to face rejection or abandonment or cause conflict if I did those things, and that I would be labeled as a bad person or too difficult for speaking up, but I still fucking did it. It meant showing up as my raw, messy, authentic self, even though I believed that in order to be loved, I had to be perfect and I had to earn my worth, and that who I was at that point wasn't enough. It meant only listening to my intuition, my gut feelings when they came up, even though I didn't trust myself, even though I would gaslight myself. It meant enrolling myself in university when I believed that I was stupid, that I was dumb, that I was incapable, that I was a dropout. I didn't finish uni, but I did it, okay? I did a few years, more like 1 year, but I did it. And girl, I was doing good. But things happened, all right? That's a long story. Point is, I did it. I did the things that scared me. And that experience at uni really did show me, wow, I am capable. And that experience in uni actually showed me, oh, I have ADHD. It's really about flipping that belief on its head and doing things in the opposite way. So as someone who believed that, you know, she wasn't lovable unless she was perfect, and that love is something that I have to earn through that perfectionism, I had to say to myself, okay, if I believed that I was lovable, that I was worth it just as I am right now, how would I behave differently? You know, think about it like this. This is how I think about it. Every time I show up for myself, every time I, you know, act in a way or I follow through with a habit that aligns with that version of me that I want to be, I imagine like a little person in my brain, like a bricklayer, you know, like a worker guy in my brain, and he's building this new pathway. And every time I do that, he is laying another brick on the road. You know, it's a win for me kind of thing. If you just stop midway, that road is never going to be completed. You know, that pathway, not a thing, sis. Every single time you show up for yourself, you're adding another block and another block and another block. Pretty soon, that motherfucker is gonna be sturdy as shit. You know, you can do like subliminal affirmations. You know, you can listen to like subliminals when you go to sleep on YouTube. I actually used to do this when I first started my journey. I'll try and find the guy's channel. I forgot his name, but I'll try and link it in the description box. He does these like I am affirmations. He does like 80 of them, and they go for like 8 hours, so they just repeat, and you'll say the affirmation that's rooted in like high self-worth or whatever, and it'll be like, I am worthy, I am capable of all the good things in life or whatever, and then he'll leave a gap, and the gap is for you to repeat it in your head before he moves on to the next belief or the next affirmation. And he reckons you have to do it for like 28 days or a month, I think, before you start seeing results. And I do believe it did work for me, you know, but I got bored of listening to it every single day. But for a month, I feel like it's a good start off. And you know, there's journaling practices. You can write down all your limiting beliefs, the self-concept you have around yourself that is negative, and then you can flip it, and then you can write the opposite, the self-concept that is rooted in self-love and worth and confidence and all the beliefs that come from that. This is how we flip the narrative. There's all these different types of journaling activities that you guys can get yourself into. You could also try cognitive reframing, which is all about, I guess you could say, questioning yourself and like reframing your thinking, like your thoughts. So when those negative thoughts do pop up, you can be like, wait, who is this? It's helpful to do this because it separates you from the version of you that identifies with that belief, that identifies with that limited self-concept or narrative. You can recognize it as your inner child or your wounded self, and also be like, okay, sis, I hear you, but where are the receipts? Questioning whether or not this is based off fact and asking for the evidence is very clever, because most of the time there ain't gonna be any evidence. The only evidence is from that one time like 20 years ago. And it's like, okay, like this receipt is literally expired. So like, it's not really valid. Feelings are valid, receipt is not valid. And then ask yourself, what's a more empowering thought I can think right now? One that aligns with that new belief, one that aligns with that empowered boss ass bitch version of me I'm trying to be. The real change came from me just like pushing myself and putting myself out there and doing things that made me uncomfortable. You know, you're showing your brain what you want to believe in. And not just from your action, but from the results of your actions. As I said, I used to have a belief around needing to be perfect to be loved, and I had to let myself be messy. I had to let myself be imperfect. I have a Virgo moon, so bitch, it's hard. You know what I mean? Like, it's literally my archetype to be a perfectionist. So I had to really let go of all that. I had to just like let myself be, let people see me as I am, let them see me fail, let them see me crash out sometimes, because what the fuck? You know, let myself say words wrong or stutter, or I don't know, just like do things I didn't think were perfect. I just let myself just be. Let myself be, so I could show myself that I'm actually still accepted. I'm actually still gonna be loved. And you know what? Since that, my relationships have gotten better, not because I've, you know, attracted more people, but because the relationships I do have strengthened, because the relationship with myself has strengthened, and I've allowed myself to shine, I've allowed myself to blossom. And I was showing my brain, hey brain, remember how we used to tell ourselves that we couldn't be loved unless we were perfect? Well, look, people do love us, and we're not perfect. In fact, people kind of love us more. Not gonna lie to you guys, this journey is hard, it is long, okay? And you're gonna deal with some imposter syndrome. As soon as you start showing up as this new version of you, while those new beliefs, those old beliefs are still in place, you're gonna feel like you're a fake. You're gonna feel like people can see you being a fake, but it's all in your head. And there's no way to avoid this. It's literally a part of the process. It's a part of the journey. You really just have to push through, and you really have to continue taking action and doing things that align with that new you, so that you can see the results and you can shape your life so that it's like the life that you want. It's a life that aligns with these beliefs and this new concept, this new version of you. You're gonna have moments where you're gonna crash out. You're gonna be doing really well for such a long time, and then, you know, something's gonna happen that's probably gonna trigger you so badly, and you're gonna be left thinking like, wow, have I made any progress at all? I'm feeling how I felt when I first started. You're never gonna backtrack when it comes to your progress. You're always ahead. You know what I'm saying? You can never go back to where you really were. The reason why it hurts so much more now is because, one, feeling your pain more, you're feeling your trauma more because you're more aware of it, okay? It's not something that you're suppressed, you're like fully conscious of it now, which means you're gonna feel it more. And two, as you're healing, you're also understanding that you deserve better and you want better for yourself and your life, and you know you can do better. We need to be kind to ourselves. Okay, because I used to feel like in those moments where I did slip up, I slipped up because I was weak. If it was anyone else, they would have been able to do it. And again, that showed me that was another belief that I had to like look into, because why am I thinking that way about myself? When in fact, I'm bringing up all this extremely traumatic childhood trauma that I had not dealt with for years and years and years and years. That is not weak. That takes courage. That takes strength. That's like the bravest thing you can ever fucking do. Honestly, congratulate yourself. Pat yourself on the back just for trying, just for starting, because it is not a linear journey. You're gonna go up, down, all around. So don't have expectations around like getting to a certain place. Focus on the journey, focus on being, all right? Don't feel like you need to fix yourself. Don't look at yourself as something that needs to be, as someone that needs to be fixed. Look at yourself as a whole and perfect and amazingly beautiful human being as you are, that just has a lot of baggage. So we want to focus on releasing, not fixing, because there's nothing wrong with you, but you are carrying a lot of baggage that you don't need to carry anymore. Anyway, now that I'm on the other side, it's very clear to me that the only person that was holding me back was myself. Once you break free from that fear, you realize that there's nothing holding you back. You understand that even in those moments of self-doubt, even in those moments where fear is trying to hold you back, you understand that it's just how the brain works. It's just the inner wirings of your brain, and those wirings are in place because of certain things that happened to you so long ago. And you understand that you have the conscious, creative power to rewire into beliefs that do serve you, beliefs that can completely transform you and your reality, and that the reality that you've been living as the person who you think you are does not have to be the reality from now on. Rejection, the abandonment, the criticism, yeah, it hurts, but it's no longer tied to your story. Once you work on those beliefs, once you work on that self-concept and it's rooted in self-love and self-worth and confidence and capability, when things like the abandonment and the rejection and the criticism happen, it hurts, like I said, but that shit is gonna bounce off you, because now you're a motherfucking force field, okay? And you understand that you actually, again, you have the conscious choice of deciding whether or not you want to identify with these things that happen to you. Do you want to identify with this label that someone is placing on you? Do you want to identify with this particular outcome that has happened to you? And is it really happening to you, or is it happening for you? These are all things you come to understand on your healing journey. And honestly, once you understand that you have that freedom of choice, identification with the things that limit us honestly seems really fucking psychotic, to be honest, because it's like, why would I choose to identify with something that limits me, that restricts me, that hurts me? The result of shifting through that fear, that result of breaking through that fear and shifting those beliefs, becoming that person that you've always dreamt of being, let me lay it out for you. Confidence, joy, freedom, peace, okay, liberation, you know what I'm saying? Magnetism, authenticity, okay? You literally become magnetic as fuck. When you become magnetic, you become aligned. Alignment with yourself and your life, and what that really means is that you are now in a natural flow of abundance with yourself. You're naturally in flow with your natural self and the natural flow of life. Life goes in a certain direction, in a certain flow, and you're letting life just take you where it's taking you, because you know that's where you're meant to go. You know what I'm saying? There's no more controlling or restricting or masking. You're like, Let's ride this motherfucking wave. And when we do this, when we become aligned with life and ourselves, we become magnetic as fuck. Life becomes magical as fuck, okay? Because we start attracting all the good things, all the abundance and the joy and the health and the happiness and the love, because those things are the same frequency as the frequency that we're now vibrating, all right? We believe we're these things now, so now this is what we're attracting into our experience. And these things come through, yes, experiences, circumstances, people, big one, you know, jobs, opportunities, they just fall into our lap. There's no longer that fear, which is one of the most lower vibrational like feelings, frequencies ever, that literally block us from receiving our blessings. And it's that blocking that makes us feel like our beliefs, our limiting beliefs are real. Life is liberating because now you understand how people work, how life works, you know, the inner dynamics, the inner workings of everything. Taking things so personally. You stop living like a victim, and this allows you to really take hold of your life and really go out there and live it with confidence. You know, people are no longer a threat because you understand now that you've looked into yourself and you understand how your brain works, how your body works. You now have a deeper understanding of how people in general work. And you understand that people's reactions towards us, you know, this is simply a projection of their internal belief system, of their inner world. Every single person is so unique, so intricate, so complex in their own way. Everyone has different experiences, different beliefs, different upbringings, different conditioning. But the thing is, you no longer fear these people because that reaction, those responses aren't a threat, because those threats don't tie into your story. Just because someone rejected you or abandoned you does not tie into your self-worth, does not tie into how lovable you are. It's a them problem, not a you problem. You will receive criticism, you will receive judgment when you do step into your like fullest truth, when you're being your raw, authentic self. This is gonna rub people the wrong way. People are either like just not gonna vibe you, or your authenticity triggers them because they hate to see you free when they're not free. You have something that they want and they're fucking pissed about it. So they're gonna project, project. So don't listen to the haters, sis, all right? Take my word for it. But sometimes you just naturally grow out. You know, you grow apart from people because that version of you that was friends with people in the past, you know, you're not really that version of you anymore. And that's okay, that's life, it happens. Just gotta align with the people that are meant for you now. The thing is, you're never gonna be too much for the right people. You are always going to attract the right people to your experience by being yourself. There's no reason to fear. You'll never miss or lose what's meant for you, and people are a massive part of that. Remember, the less fear you have in your life and the more authentic you are, the more high vibrational you are, the better people you will attract. What I say to someone who, you know, doesn't know where to start or is feeling overwhelmed, as I said before, don't focus on a destination, focus on the journey, focus on the process, you know, because that is really where, you know, that's the point of it. You know, you don't want to like completely skip the process, because that is how you grow, how you learn, how you become strong and resilient. It's that journey that really shapes you into the person you're meant to be. Again, don't look at yourself as someone who needs fixing. Look at yourself as someone who is whole and lovable and worthy as you are right now. You're just releasing, you're just shedding layers, okay, of inauthenticity, I think is the right word. Inauthenticity. Shedding layers that don't need to be there anymore, so you can become light as a motherfucking feather and vibrate high into the sky, my bitch. But definitely take your time, because this is heavy work, all right? Especially when we go down the track of our inner child, and you know, it's heavy work. And a lot of the time it's stuff that we're looking at, stuff that we haven't looked at for a long time. So take your time. Everyone's journey is different. It's not a linear process. Honestly, do a little ritual. Buy yourself a new journal, a new pen, and that's your space. And don't put any pressure on yourself to like figure out, what do I fix first? Again, don't use the word fix. What do I look at first? What do I want to release? What is like heavy on me right now? And really tune into that feeling state. But journaling is a great way to start, because you'll realize that the feelings are going to come out, the thoughts, you know, they're going to lead you. Again, they're going to lead you to that belief that you want to look at. Let me know what you thought of this video. any standout points, anything else you'd like to see. Honestly, let me know what you guys are feeling, what you guys are vibing. I would love to know. I would love some feedback. And you know, give me a follow, sis. Hit that subscribe button because you know you want to, all right? You know I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Nah, I probably will be here for a long time. I'm usually here for a long time in all my videos because I do yap a lot. Let's not lie about that. Bye. See you guys next time.